Nygaard, also member at large, planning commission staff.
Bob Campbell, representing Hillsborough County Public Works Administration.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jenkins. I'm with the Environmental Protection Commission, Hillsborough County, sitting in for Jeff Sims.
Lemma Fassi, Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning Department.
Laura Lindhart, the vice president of Urban Affairs for Tampa Bay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sierra LaForne, the Director of Planning at the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority.
Hi, I'm Jesus Esperanza Garcia with the Hard Planning and Scheduling team.
Elizabeth Watkins, TPO Liaison.
And Mike Williams with Hillsborough County Development Services.
And before I hand this back over to Mike, Sierra, welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us. If you'd like to share a few seconds of what you do at the Aviation Authority.
Sure, thank you. So, like I said, my name is Sierra LaForne, the Director of Planning with the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. I've been there for a little over a year. I was previously working as a consultant working on airport planning. So our planning and development team is divided up into three kind of categories. We have planning, really the life cycle of a project, right? Planning, design, and construction. So I head up the planning team where we have we're working on our capital program, but we're also focused on height zoning and airspace, environmental compliance, sustainability and resiliency, and CAD and GIS. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and I appreciate being part of the team.
Welcome.
And Mike, we have a few TAC members online. I'll just read them out for ease. Anna Quinones from Thea, and as well as Bob Fry. Frank Kugenhauer from Plant City. Jason Warrenfeld from Temple Terrace. And my computer got kicked off, but I think that those were the members.
Okay. So we have a quorum. Did you guys?
We do have a forum.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Anybody within the room that wants to speak to public comment? Okay, seeing none. Anyone online? Okay, covered for public comment. Next item is approval of the minutes from the June meeting. Anyone have any comments on those? Revisions? Okay, can we have a motion?
Jake Hollins, motion to approve.
Bob Campbell, second. James.
Because I contacted the super, this Caleb, and I gave him the number.
We have a hot mic. Could you please turn your mic off?
Okay, that was a motion by Jay and a second by Bob, correct? Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the action items. First is the federal quadrennial certifications of the TPO. And I see Sarah's up at the podium to speak to that one.
Sarah Caper, TPO staff. I'll be presenting on the federal quadrennial certification of the TPO. So you might be wondering what this is. It's something we do every 4 years. It is similar but different from the one that we did earlier this year with Florida Department of Transportation. FQT is still involved when we do these certification reviews, but these ones are led by the federal teams. That's Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. And every 4 years, they do an in-person and virtual look at the TPO. They ask us some questions, we provide information, and they produce this report that includes 3 main components: best practices, recommendations for improvements, and corrective actions. So they were here in January. We did an in-person meeting. Several of you, I believe, were invited to attend. And there was some exchange of information, and then there was a draft report that was produced, and it is included in your agenda packet. So I'll start that there are 5 noteworthy practices identified in it. The first is recognizing us for the innovative work with the Citizens Advisory Committee, and noted that we have things like office hours and some of the other things we've been doing and work with the CAC. The second is our Community Air Monitoring Network program was recognized for using these low-cost sensors. The third has to do with freight planning and the leadership that the TPOs had with the state MPOs with our passenger rail priorities program. Another area of recognition was our 2050 long-range transportation plan for the visualization and the work that we did there with outreach. And then again, with the long-range transportation plan, with the different needs assessments, the surveys that we did, the prizes that staff provided, and also all of the data points we collected. Moving on to recommended actions, there were 3 of them. Sometimes we find these recommended actions are ones that our partner organizations have at the same time. While the federal team comes here and does our review, they also conduct the review of Forward Pinellas and the Pasco MPO, which are one transportation management area. And so sometimes you'll see some of these come across among several. One of them was to evaluate our F2T coordination process, specifically the annual list of obligated projects including transit. The second was to ensure our transit safety targets are adopted, updated, and reflected in the LRTP and the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. And the third and last recommended action is related to the input program, ensuring that we're showing all federal funding, including some of the transit grants. And I'm happy to report that we have no corrective actions in our report. So the ask of you this afternoon is to recommend that the TPO board accept the 2025 certification report and authorize TPO staff to address its recommendations. And I'm happy to take any questions you have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Any questions? Job on the CAC combination, since I know that's your committee, Sarah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, well, if there's no questions, can we have a motion?
Jake Hollins, I'll make a motion to recommend that the, put my glasses on here, TPO board accept the 2025 certification report and authorize TPO staff to address its recommendations.
Second.
Bob? Who was that made the second?
Jason Tumultury.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, we have a motion to second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the PD&E and LRTP amendment for the Van Dyke Road widening. And I guess that's going to be jointly between Amanda Sidamara and Elizabeth Watkins. Amanda.
Thank you, TAC. This will be a joint presentation between me and Amanda. She'll be presenting the PD&E, and then I will present the LRTP amendment. That would be just a more efficient use of your time. So without further ado, I'll hand it to Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda Sotomayor. I'm with the Public Works project management team. I am the project manager for the Van Dyke Road project, and I'm here today to present this project team. So this is the Van Dyke Road project development requirements study. So, what is a PD&E study? So PD&E studies evaluate proposed transportation improvements and alternatives. We look at the engineering factors, economic costs, social and environmental impacts, and public input. This project is located in the northwest area of the county on Van Dyke Road between Gun Highway and Dale Mabry Highway. On February 16, 2018, the 2040 Long Range Transportation Plan was approved with the widening of Van Dyke Road included. Through the PD&E study, the county has evaluated the widening of Van Dyke Road between the Suncoast Parkway and Burley Road and determined that doing so would improve and enhance the safety and operations of the corridor. The existing condition, the roadway is congested during peak hours, making turning movements at intersections difficult. Widening to 4 lanes with a grass median will reduce congestion and allow for turn lanes, which will improve safety. In addition to the widening of the roadway, the study also recommended the connection of the Upper Tampa Bay Trail to the Northdale Lake Park Trail. A sidewalk connection along the south side of Van Dyke Road from Burley Road to Dale Mabry Highway intersection. The segment from Gun Highway to Suncoast Parkway was not analyzed for widening due to the policy constraint of the Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan. The Hillsborough County and its partners are committed to the continued support of the Vision Zero effort to reduce fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. Vision Zero refuses to accept dangerous roads as the status quo. By committing ourselves to this initiative, we're taking a fundamentally different view of road safety. Vision Zero's 5 E's for safety, engineering, education, enforcement, equity, and evaluation are implemented on every Hillsborough County project. Right here, we can see the project where it shows the widening portion between Suncoast and Burley. And at the west end of the Gun Highway is the trail extension, along with also trail extension going from Van Dyke along Burley Road. The engineering component of Van Dyke Road corridor improvements includes speed management strategies such as 11-foot lanes to reduce speeds and roundabouts to slow traffic. The multimodal components of the project include 10 to 12-foot shared use paths for pedestrians and bicycles, and high emphasis crosswalks to improve pedestrian safety. Also included are trail connections to Upper Tampa Bay Trail and Northdale Lake Park. In addition, there will be lighting improvements along the corridor. The recommended roadway typical section includes 4 travel lanes, 2 in each direction, separated by a raised grass median with shared use paths on both sides. The trail connection from the Upper Tampa Bay Trail will include a 10-foot shared use path that begins along the north side of Van Dyke Road and crosses to the south side approximately 1,000 feet east of Gun Highway. The path will be located between the roadway and the right-of-way line while minimizing impacts to wetlands. The trail connection from Northdale Lake Park will include a 10-foot shared use path. That will extend from Van Dyke Road parallel to Worley Road on the east side. The trail will fall within Lake Park, hugging the edge of the park to minimize tree impacts and meandering around wetlands. This alternative reduces the habitat fragmentation and segmentation of the park land use. Modern roundabouts are compact, low speed, and require a yield at entry. They feature a central island, splitter islands, to safely separate traffic approaching the roundabout, and yield signs at each entry. Approaching traffic yields to circulating traffic, and the circulating traffic has a right of way over approaching traffic. The county is proposing to utilize roundabouts in 2 locations. So one of the roundabouts will be here at Lakeshore Road and Van Dyke. The roundabout proposed at Lakeshore will allow for safer and more efficient navigation. This will also require minimal effort to maintain and will function as designed in the event of the public outage. At Lake Reflections Boulevard and Darby Lane, a peanut or a dog-bone roundabout has been recommended. This type of roundabout has the same benefits as the other roundabouts and allows for a connection to the Grace Family Church main entrance. This configuration has been utilized successfully in other states. This roundabout will provide safer and more efficient navigation, will require minimal effort for maintenance, and will continue to operate in the event of a power outage. Modern roundabouts are safer. They eliminate most lethal crashes such as T-bone and head-on crashes that can occur at conventional intersections. Slower speeds within a roundabout compared to the higher speeds of a traditional signalized intersection can also greatly increase pedestrian survivability. Pedestrians survive over 95% of the time when hit by a vehicle traveling 20 miles per hour, compared to only surviving 20% of the time when hit by a vehicle traveling at 40 miles per hour. So the PG&E study, these were the environmental effects that we looked at: the natural resources, cultural resources, social environment, physical environment. All these are taken into consideration when selecting the alternatives. Approximately 10.05 acres of right-of-way will be acquired. Of those, 6 acres is for the roadway widening and 4 acres is for the stormwater management facilities. There will be 32 parcels expected to be affected, with 11 of them being potential business relocations, and there will be no residential relocations anticipated. Total cost for the recommended improvements is estimated at $91 million. The land acquisition and construction is currently unfunded. You can see here, this is the project schedule. The study began in July 2018. We had a public meeting in November 2019. Just had a public hearing this past June. And we're hoping to get the PG&E study approved in fall, or by the end of the year.
Thanks, Donna. So now I'll wrap up with the LRTP amendment portion, which is the action before you today. So the reason the TPO needs to amend the long-range transportation plan is twofold. The first of which is to ensure that the county can maintain federal funding eligibility since they intend to federalize this project. So step one is it needs to be in a cost feasible portion of the plan to even access federal funding. And then finally, in order to complete the PD&E, it must be in a cost feasible section of the plan to ensure that federal planning consistency is met, and that the PD&E can wrap up and the project can move to design. So I won't belabor the project benefits because Amanda did a great job talking about the benefits for congestion relief, safety, the 2 multi-use trails to provide multimodal access, as well as connect some longstanding gaps in the trail network system. As Amanda stated, the project is wrapping up PD&E, and it is funded for PE of $5.4 million, but right-of-way and construction remains unfunded. So in order to accommodate this amendment, we needed to move Van Dyke out of the unfunded needs list and into that cost feasible. So the county, TPO staff all huddled together and we evaluated the projects that are currently cost feasible. And the one that really jumped out to us was 46th Street from Fletcher to Briskey Downs. This is a segment near the university area that would be an extension from Fletcher to Briskey Downs. There's currently apartments there. So there are a tremendous amount of hurdles to actually deliver that project. As well as 46th Street widening is not actively in project development. And if that were to change for the county, we could revisit that in a future LRTP update. And then from a technical perspective, Van Dyke has more congestion and travel time reliability concerns, while 46th Street, the data isn't showing that today. It's performing fairly well. And then, of course, there's always a little bit of a political component to this. So this project is also within the same county commissioner district. So we saw this as the same area, the same district still receiving a benefit by moving Van Dyke into cost feasible, while 46th Street is still in the plan, but not cost feasible. So ultimately, what TPO staff is recommending is that we move Van Dyke into the cost feasible section of the long range plan by allocating those projected revenues from 46th Street and then move 46th Street to those unfunded needs. So the recommended action before you today is to consider recommending that the TPO board approve these LRTP amendments. So I'm happy to answer any LRTP specific questions. I'm sure Amanda would be happy to answer any project specific questions.
Okay, thank you both for the presentation. Any questions? Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had a quick LRTP question. When you do amendments, does that go for outreach? Like, is there like a 21-day period and a hearing and that type of thing?
That's a great question. Yes. So we post on social media. We publish in 3 newspapers, like I said, the Tampa Bay Times, and then another one that's escaping me.
Is that to know?
Harmony probably know them off the top of their heads, but we do have an engagement process that we go through.
Yeah, I was wondering because, I mean, it doesn't affect me that 46th Street is getting out, but I wonder if some people would push back against that. Yeah. That's all.
I don't believe we've heard any feedback today, but the comment period is still open, and we'll continue to kind of push the message out and see if there are any concerns.
I mean, I think you have strong arguments for the move, but I was just curious. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got, this is Venkat. I got a project related question to Amanda. Can I share a screen for a quick minute?
What was that? I'm sorry.
He wants
I
to
want to
share
share
his
the
screen.
screen for a quick minute.
He would need to be made a presenter, I guess.
Okay,
Must
then
be.
don't worry. What I want to do is I agree that Peanut Roundabout is great at the intersection of Darby Lane and Lake Reflections, but it looks like it is going to work the same fashion better at the Ramblewood and Van Dyke Farms too, because the county commission and the engineering operations received a couple of citizens' requests about that intersections, 2 intersections also. I want to see if you all can look into that to see, to make changes as a part of this project.
Yeah, we did receive that request and we are looking at it and we'll coordinate with our traffic engineering department.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, Jay? I think Jay was.
So 2 questions. I guess one goes back to 46 in Fletcher, which is an area of growth in unincorporated Hillsborough County associated with the University of South Florida. You made mention about there's a lot of apartments there. How did that get on the list to begin with? And then you made a mention politically, it makes sense as a 1-for-1 swap, but what is the other criteria you use when removing something from the list to add something? And then the second question, I guess more for Amanda, would be the peanut and the roundabout. Does this actually change the speed of the roadway itself? Is this looking at actually lowering speeds on Van Dyke, or the speeds stay the same and we're just using speed management for a roundabout?
Well, the current speed throughout Van Dyke is 45 miles per hour. We'll be reducing it along the corridor to 40. But the way the roundabouts are designed is to lower the speed as you enter it to like 20 miles per hour. So it is a form of speed management.
It breaks out, it helps break up the corridor. You know, you just have a long straight corridor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it helps break it up because you saw there's at least 2 different roundabouts.
Yeah, 100%. We've all seen people not realize that that will slow them down and hit a roundabout at 40 miles an hour. But they only do that once.
And then from an LRTP process perspective, where 46th Street came from was, I think initially submitted by the county maybe a few years ago. It was just essentially reevaluated in this most LRTP. So that's where it came from. And then in terms of evaluation criteria, we look at some of the model results. So what are those person hours saved? What are the projected safety benefits, congestion? So we're looking at those metrics as well, because we want it to be as data driven as possible. But as you know, often or occasionally there are other considerations more qualitative in these kinds of decisions.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No, I don't see anyone else. I guess we need to have a, excuse me, a motion.
I'll make the motion to recommend the action of a request by the county and the TPO staff.
Okay,
Lema has a motion to recommend approval of the LRTP amendments to the TPO board.
is that the same?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Recommend approval for the LRTP amendments.
One item, one action for both?
No action needed for this.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All my seconds, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, I guess we had a motion by Bob and you, we'll call that a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Amanda and Elizabeth. Next up is the Courtney Campbell Causeway PD&E kickoff, and see Craig Fox here from DOT.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Craig Fox, the Florida Department of Transportation, District 11, here to present on April 16th, Golden Campbell Causeway TPA site. So the study limits extend in the west, starting from County Road 611 from Mullen Booth Road, going east across Old Tampa Bay, ending just west of the Veterans Expressway or State Road 589. The length of the study is approximately 9.4 miles. Golden Campbell Causeway is an important east-west corridor in both Hillsborough and Pinellas counties. It connects this to two strategic intermodal systems, roadways. Those are both Veterans Expressway and US 19. It also connects the cities of Clearwater and Tampa, and it is also an emergency evacuation route. So on the screen shown is the existing typical section that's looking east in the direction of Tampa. You'll see it currently has 2 lanes, travel lanes in each direction. They range from 11 to 12 feet each. You have an access road on both the north and south sides of the roadway, along with a shared use path on the south side of the roadway, and it extends across the entire project limits. The existing speed limits are between 45 miles an hour up to 16 miles an hour. Now I'll review the project needs, starting from the left with structural improvements. The oldest structure along the corridor is that main motorist span, and it's around 51 years old. There are other structures that are younger than it, but that one's the oldest. We're going to conduct a life cycle cost analysis that's going to evaluate whether we should continue to rehabilitate the structure or whether it makes sense to go ahead and just reconstruct a new bridge system. Next, I'll move to causeway vulnerability. As we're all aware of, living through hurricanes Helene and Milton last year, the causeway was impacted by that. So we are looking at the vulnerability of it and looking at improvements. There's also a concurrent causeway betterments project that is ongoing, kind of not within this PPE study, but outside of it. Want to have it outside of it so we can accelerate that and move forward faster than the PPE study could be complete. So whatever improvements are made from that betterments project, we'll make sure to incorporate them as it has no conditions within the PPE. Next, I'll move on to safety. Along the corridor, we're averaging around 1.39 crashes per million vehicle miles traveled. That's around 2.7 times above the statewide average for a similar type of facility. So there are definitely some needs for safety improvements along this corridor. When we look at the crash frequencies, we see the highest hotspots around Dr. Curran Patel Boulevard, the boat ramp entrance, and also Rocky Point Drive. The Rocky Point Drive we do see the highest bike and pedestrian crossings at that intersection. So we're going to take particular care to analyze that intersection. Moving on to traffic capacity. Capacity is needed before the design year, which is in 2050. This need is shown within the area that's between Dr. Patel Boulevard to Bay Harbor Drive. And additionally, it is an emergency evacuation corridor, so that, you know, to have capacity for adequate evacuations is of course important to the region. Regarding water quality, FDOT conducted the whole Tampa Bay Water Quality Improvement Study back in the mid-2010s. And out of that, we had the Virginia Creighton Bridge that was constructed in 2018. That has been shown to show a lot of positive effects towards the water quality just north of the causeway. Of course, before the causeway was built, it was not there. So building causeway did repair on quality north of there. So we are seeing some positive effects of that. So with this study, we are going to look at that study once again and see if there are any other additional opportunities for improvements to improve the water quality that's north of the causeway. So last comment, yeah, Old Tampa Bay still does remain impaired, so there are some improvements that we're looking to get out of the study. Regarding the project purpose is to address the building capacity, safety, and emergency evacuation needs. We're also looking to improve the resiliency of the Courtney Campbell Causeway to withstand some events. The PD study will look at several environmental effects, starting first with natural resources. That includes wetlands and surface waters. There are wetlands within there, especially on the west side of the project. The central fish habitat, and we're also going to look at protected species and habitat. That covers everything from plant species to animal species, also and bird species. Cultural resources, we're going to evaluate the region for archaeological and historic resources, whether it be structures or any archaeological finds within the area. And also with section 4F, which covers generally things like parks, but can also cover historical and cultural resources too. Regarding the social environment, we're going to pay special attention to parks and rec. There are recreational activities within the area, although quite a bit of them are within existing right of way. But we're going to take special attention to them to make sure that they're maintained and that they continue to operate as is. Also, it is a Florida scenic highway. It's the only scenic highway within District 7. So we're working closely with that group. We've already met with them before we even had them sold on board, and we're going to continue meeting with them to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the scenic highway. We're also going to look at land use and community impacts, whether that be relocations. Now, we're not, you know, we're still very early on in the process, but we're not anticipating any kind of major relocations. Regarding the physical environment, we'll also analyze air quality, noise, and contamination. And the results of these studies will be shown at the public hearing. That's going to be next year. So regarding the long-range transportation plans, currently the project is not within the Fort Pinellas LRTP, 2050 LRTP, and it's not in the Hillsborough TPO 2050 LRTP, although it is listed as an unfunded need in the 2050 LRTP. So we're going to coordinate with the TPO so that we can have planning consistency for the project. Now on to the schedule and funding. The project began in June of this year. We are continuing the data collection process. It's ongoing right now. And our first public event is going to be a kickoff meeting. Normally we just do a presentation to the TPOs, but now we're actually going to have an in-person kickoff meeting. And I'll get into that in the upcoming slides. That's going to be September 4th. We're going to prepare the documents, continue to prepare the documents through 2026 and have a public hearing close to the end of 2026 with anticipated study approval in 2027. Currently, the design segments have been shown to the right. We split up into 3 design segments. The first one being the Pinellas County portion. The second one is a main motorist span bridge. And then the third portion is on the end of the East Access Road, just west of the Veterans Expressway. As you can see, within the 5-year GO program, none of the design segments are currently funded. Oh, sorry, design right-of-way and construction segments are currently funded. So the kickoff meeting that I alluded to is going to be Thursday, September 4th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's going to be an open house format. So in that format, not really going to have a formal, like a public hearing, like a formal comment period. So it's going to be board, so people can come around. There'll be staff there to talk to and answer questions. We really want to gather as much community input as we can. We want to hear some of the concerns that we can that folks have along the corridor, and really do this so we can get that input early on, so we can incorporate those comments into the concepts instead of kind of reacting afterwards. So really looking forward to having a lot of public participation in this kickoff meeting. Location's going to be at the Doubletree by Hilton Tampa Rocky Point Waterfront Hotel. I don't know why they gave it that long, but they did. There's also not going to be a virtual option since it's not going to be a formal public hearing. But everything that we have in person at the hearing, all the boards will be posted online before the meeting. In addition to that, we're going to have an extended comment period where folks will be able to input their comments online. And the location of the meeting location is shown on this in the yellow star here to the right. Right, so my contact information is shown. We are working on just doing final touches on the project website. So that will be up before the end of the week. So I'm just going to follow up for you all with that information. But that concludes my presentation, and I want to open up for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Any questions or comments for Craig? Committee? Okay,
Correct, so the trail is a great asset, really took a beating last year. Is that anything that y'all are looking at for ways to, I don't know, additional riprap, which of course is going to help the roadway itself, but the first thing that washes out obviously is the trail, so.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, you're completely right. It's a heavily used asset, used constantly by up to Tampa Bay. So we are looking at that. The betterments projects that I mentioned is run separately. That'll be kind of the best one to actually address that, because that's going to be looking at producing the wave action that's going to before it even hits the causeway. So that'd be the best one. On top of that, we did coordinate with our Pinellas operations group, and one recommendation that they had will be changing it from asphalt to concrete. As you can imagine, that's a pretty costly endeavor to do, but that is something that we're taking into consideration because, especially if it does get hit, obviously concrete's going to help a little better than asphalt. But so we're taking that into consideration also. So yes, that's what we're looking at.
thank you. Okay, any others? Thank you, Craig. One thing I'll mention, this whole corridor is heavily used for recreational purposes, not just the trail. There's other, beaches and picnic tables and all that sort of stuff on there. So hopefully all that will be taken into account as you move forward with the study.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a hung up.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's covered up.
It's Ed.
Ed? Oh, there we go. Ed, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
hi there. Yeah, I left it in the chat. I'm not formally part of the TAC, but here representing the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. I left a comment in the chat just indicating that we fully support DOT's look at improvements to water quality north of the Courtney Campbell Causeway in association with this PD&E study. In any ways we could collaborate with the department to look at ways we could benefit both the water quality and seagrass resources in the northwest and central west Old Tampa Bay through the update of this roadway would be appreciated. So just wanted to say that out loud.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, Craig, thank you for coming today and giving us this presentation. Look forward to seeing how this goes.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
But before we do the next item, I'm told we have to go back and revisit the first action item, the federal quadrennial certification of the TPO, because the second was by someone that's not in the room, and it has to be someone in the room. So, Jay?
Jay made it and then Jason online. So if we could have another second.
I'll second, Melissa Reinhardt.
Okay. So, and I guess we'll have a revote with Jay making the motion and Melissa making the second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously again.
Nah.
Next is advanced air mobility test flight. And is Gina, oh, I didn't even see you behind the computer.
Sarah's first meeting and you guys so happy.
Yeah. So Gina Dew is here to speak to that.
Thank you. mind presenting from here.
Yeah.
So that we sound.
Oh, good, perfect. Thank you so much. Hi. You guys hear me okay? Yeah, perfect. So, as you guys know, we've been a leader in the country on integrating advanced air mobility into, our everyday practice and hopefully into our community. And so I'm going to give you guys an update on where we've been and kind of give you guys a look into, potentially what's going to happen around here. So as you guys all know, this is the birthplace of aviation. And so the birthplace of the commercial aviation was why and really focused on this innovation with the first flight being from downtown St. Petersburg, downtown Tampa. We were also the world's first airport people mover system. Westinghouse actually designed the original train session for us. So when you think about things that these automated people mover systems, it wasn't in Shanghai, it wasn't in some wasn't like in LA or New York, it was right here in Tampa. You guys know this stuff about, we've got 25 million annual passengers right now. We have 3 general aviation facilities that we also think that this technology can fit right into, especially when you think about the locations of them, of Peter and Night on Davis Islands. And of course, Tampa exact out by the fairgrounds and Hard Rock Casino, and Plain City, we really see as an opportunity for manufacturing. So one of the biggest things that we were working on is the safe and efficient integration of this into our airspace to protect the utility of the airport. So this is mandated by the FAA. And so we were going through a master plan process, which we do every 7 years, that I presented to you the findings on that. It looks at how we're going to grow for the next 20. So again, this was, we were looked at 4 considerations: site selection, airspace and operations, infrastructure, and utilities, and community and stakeholder engagement. Part of this was led by this aviation technology committee that we interviewed the top 10 companies for closest certification. And that's really what we focused on. And they weren't sales pitches. We had them come in and we asked them questions based off of those 4 criteria to really learn from them how they were planning to integrate into the Tampa Bay and into our areas. And things like, are you doing cargo? Are you doing passenger? Who are your investors? And so this way, it wasn't a sales pitch of them coming in and showing us this beautiful PowerPoint that we've all been on the receiving end of, which is great, but we really wanted the information to then inform our master plan. So this is they were 1-hour virtual meetings. And again, you can see some of the companies that we've worked with. Obviously, there's been some changes in the industry since then. Vertiport's actually sold off their line of business on the vertiport side, and they're just focusing on the commercial aviation side. Joby, I saw this morning, announced that they are actually purchasing Blade helicopter, because we're familiar with Blade that operates in the New Jersey market. It's an interesting piece. Lilium has gone through bankruptcy, and I think is coming out on the other side of it. Beta is moving along, and that's Skyports and West. So those were just some of the companies that we worked with, as well as Archer Aviation, whose CEO is actually here from Tampa. He's actually a Chamberlain grad. So we know that Adam is very interested in the Tampa Bay region once they get their California operations up and running. So key takeaways for the infrastructure requirements of preference for agnostic facilities. As you all know, we're pretty space constrained as is downtown Tampa and all these things. So you really want facilities that contain all the different types of operators, not just one point Williams only working with Ferrovial. That's just really, that's a hard piece to sell us on if you're only doing these exclusive agreements that we would be then tying up real estate on. Again, vertiport site selection, everybody wants to be on top of the short-term parking garage because of the access to the terminal. But then you have to fly between the parallel runways, and the FAA is just not there yet. And also, we still have to, again, protect the utility of the airport with parking spaces and those other things. Then, of course, that integration with the airport. Not everybody coming to the airport will be transferred over to passenger planes, but we know that some of them will, especially with the investment of the commercial carriers and a lot of this these technology companies. So we looked at passenger transport and cargo transport. And you can see the little bit of a difference of like some of the aircraft Beta. Beta just flew their aircraft out to Oshkosh, which is one of our big general aviation things up in Wisconsin. They flew it from their headquarters in Vermont over to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So these things, the range is getting better as the battery technologies gets better. And again, like I mentioned, Archer, their CEO is from here. So you can see air taxi, airport transfer, and then mid-range transfer on the cargo, and then what do that last mile delivery look like. So when I looked at it, and this is a view of our campus, is that we eliminated the sites down the middle, and then of course as you guys are familiar, like over on that, the east side of the runway of our terminal aviation facilities are located across the cross runway. That's where we'll be releasing this integrating. What that passenger transport looks like yet, we are not sure. That is going to be up to our friends at the TSA of where are passengers screened, how are they screened, and how are they then transported from there over to the air sides. So more to come on that as the federal government works through that piece as well as the certification piece. And again, we did the same thing for Tampa Exec. So this kind of shows you where the 2 locations would be at the Tampa Executive Airport as well. Now the fun part. So as part of this, in November of 2023, we hosted the first ever public test flight at a major airport in the country, and definitely the first in Florida. And what we did is we invited 300 of our closest friends. Why did we do that? Again, that community acceptance. And also that these, at the time, we thought that the companies would be certified by the end of this year. That time has slipped a little bit. It's looking like it's going to be more of 2026, like early 2027. But we really, we invited school districts, we invited the EDC, we invited the Chamber of Commerce, we invited the business community, but really focusing on that opportunities for our region beyond the transportation solution. What does the workforce training look like? What does the manufacturing opportunities? And again, really focusing on all of those things. And also, we still want to be the first on this stuff. We have this history of innovation, and we want to make sure that we are still that history of innovation. And that, you know, we had the CEO change in April, and that has not stopped with Michael. I can guarantee you that. I feel like even we're moving faster now. So we are not going to slow down on any of that. And again, Florida Department of Transportation is a huge partner in all of this with us. We hosted the first tabletop exercise here, and we've been working with their advisory committee that looks at utilities and all the other pieces that they need to have this put together. So we've been working with them on all that stuff. The state actually, in the state legislative session, made some great strides in how vertiports will be certified by the state of Florida and what DOT's influence will be all over that stuff, as well as how local governments will then permit these. One of the things that we were very adamant about is that we didn't want the city of Tampa to have different regulations in Hillsborough County, that it needed to be more of a statewide look at it, so that when these companies are coming in, that they're not trying to deal with the patchwork of regulations, because if this is going to be difficult, if there's a barrier to entry is high, they're just going to go for another market. They're not going to invest here.
Welcome to a very historic day here at Tampa International Airport.
We're about to be the first major commercial airport to host an urban air mobility flight test.
Joe said, "Why are you not flying Florida?" We said, "Why not?"
It's exciting for us to be one of the first, and this will be a very, very big part of transforming Tampa's tomorrow.
Moves from terminal to plane. From the beginning, Tampa International has been all about innovation. It's in our DNA.
We wanted to have as many people as possible that can hear and see and witness that this is becoming a reality.
This aircraft will go above all the traffic and take you where you need to go.
It's designed to be accessible to everyone. Seeing is believing, hearing is believing.
Urban air mobility is definitely a huge part of the future of transportation.
And what we are now working on is a potential test, a true test flight with for transportation for takeoff from Tampa and potentially actually fly to Orlando and do all those pieces. So we're working on that. So more to come. But so that was the first test flight. We're hoping to do another one in the next 12 months. So with that, any questions?
Great, thank you, Gina. Any questions from the committee?
Thank you. Hi, Gina. Thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question. So you mentioned, so every trip has 2 termini, right? Origin and destination. So I guess the airport would be, let's say, the end. Somebody comes in and they're going to whatever, American Airlines or something. Where are they coming from? Has that been part of this conversation? Like, is there going to be like another hub where they get in and fly?
Great question. So our initiative incorporated this in this presentation. These don't have to go to an airport, right? So these things can land in a street. Like, I mean, when you think about the dwell time on these things, 2 years ago, I went to a demonstration that eAir Mobility did, and they used Blade helicopter to mimic it. And they landed in a parking lot that had a trailer in it, that had a carrier and a bathroom, because you don't have the dwell time. So these people, this could land at like a parking lot up in Citrus County, let's say, that somebody who doesn't want to drive that hour or hour and a half down to the airport, that you don't have the dwell time, and because these things are vertical takeoff and landing and not horizontal, they can just go straight up and down. They're also, they're much more noise friendly. Like they don't make a lot of noise. Like, I mean, you've heard that it's flying, and it's just like we're having a conversation. In fact, Joby CEO does an ad where it's not even on a mic and the thing's flying behind them because they're so quiet. So you don't have the noise sensitivity. So they can come from anywhere. What we are talking about is what are those use cases? Like people who fly in from all over the world to go to Moffitt Cancer Center, then 7275 for 2 hours, if they, depending on what time they fly in. That those types of use cases and those types of routes, and that's what we are talking to a lot of these operators about. That doesn't have to be centered around the airport, but that's how it could. But they could go from and even vertiports, like some of them have the charging infrastructure, some of them won't. So you'll have different size vertiports, you'll have different size. Some will have maintenance part of it, some of them won't. Like some of them, they might just be swapping out the batteries for other vertiports, they'll be charging the batteries, so or the charging the vehicles as well. So and again, as that battery technology gets better, so does that the distance of the truck. That's a great question.
Yeah, because I feel like those spaces should be allocated, kind of like e-scooters, they have corrals where they should end their trip. Because, like Moffitt Cancer Center, they would need to like fence off part of the parking lot or
They can use the existing helipads at Moffitt hospitals. So that's the other thing. You can use existing infrastructure for this stuff. And that's part of what the state legislature looked at, was that, again, that permitting and that regulation piece, so that it is seamless across the state instead of this like patchwork of, well, here you have to have a fenced off, like a fence is a perfect example. Or you have to have a fenced off, here you don't. Like, which is all of that looking like.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? I can't see online, but. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
And I just wanted to say too, real quick, this presentation was actually when I did in Victoria. So when you think about Tampa, you guys all sit here and like looking at these transportation solutions. The work that we're doing here was actually presented on a national, like an international stage, which I know like sometimes the mayor says we're so far behind, we're ahead. And I think this is a perfect example of where we can make a difference. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is a public participation plan update for 2025 in Harmony.
Oh, I think we have one more.
Yeah,
Advanced air mobility simulator. There's two Eva.
Yep, you're correct.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes. I think
Okay.
Elizabeth is getting set up.
Professor, would you like to share your screen or would you like me to advance?
Yes,
your
I can
slides?
share my screen.
Okay, I'll make you a presenter. Oh, you already can. Okay.
Good, good. I'm gonna, my slides is here. First of all, sorry that I cannot be in the room with all of you, but thank you for inviting me to give this presentation to during this meeting. So my name's Yu Zhan, and I'm a professor at University of South Florida, leading the Smart Urban Mobility Lab as well as Advanced Air Mobility Research Program at Qatar. And we have been working on advanced air mobility in the last 7 or 8 years, and mainly working on how to integrate the advanced air mobility in the multimodal transportation system, as well as integrates them into the airspace. So on the multimodal transportation system side, we work with FDOT and also locally with the stakeholders. And for the integrated airspace, for the new entrants, we work with FAA on several different projects. So along all this time today, I just want to share one product that we kind of recently accomplished, which is a simulation platform to simulate the advanced air mobility and help on the planning and also operational management of the future mode. So it will include some introduction, our research goal, how we construct the model and experiments that we made, and also results followed by conclusions. So Gina has given a really good background of the advanced air mobility, including urban air mobility that will serve the needs in the metropolitan area. So I'm going to skip some of the slides. So AM basically enabled by the advanced aircraft that can vertically take off and landing, and use also renewable energies like electricity and hydrogen. And to extend the range, potentially there could be jet fuel and electricity hybrid as well. So let's see. What we try to do is we want to leverage a certain available simulation platform and try to simulate the emerging advanced air mobility. And the idea is to identify the challenges from the planning, from the operations, to see if there could be any bottlenecks and how to resolve those. And so what we selected was analogic, and it has a really good visualization functions. So we create this model using this analogic platform, and we can use it to mimic the real world operations. And we make this model easy to scale up, and could be used by any metropolitan areas with any different settings. And also we develop some APIs that they can read external files. So if the eVTOL industry has more advancement in the eVTOL features, then they actually can easily input it into this model. And also if there's any operators, they have some specific operational strategies, we can also import them into this simulation via the API. So eventually, we hope that it's a powerful tool that can be used by different stakeholders to test and evaluate like network design, fleet planning, scheduling, rebalancing, and other planning and operational management tasks. So this is an agent-based model. When we say agent, we look into like the vertiport, we consider it as agent. The passengers, we consider those as agent. So agent, then they can make up their decisions according to the operating environment. Then the next step is we want to come up with some logic, to connect the different agents all together. And this is what we did. So we come up with this passenger logic flow. So we simulate how the passenger will, originated from the original side vertiport, and then how they could go through the small, the vertiport terminal building if they have any. It could be in the future, some of the vertiport could be like helipad type, and it's very simple. So then you can omit certain step in this flow chart. And then they will be assigned on certain eVTOL, and from there they're gonna leave and get into another agent flow. And if they come back to if they are inbound from anywhere else, then they will also go through the like landing and debarking, and also go through the terminal building, and then they leave the system. And same thing for the eVTOL, we come up all these features, and then eVTOL become available if they are charged to certain level. And if they are available, they have the seats available for serving the passengers. So we use some rules to evaluate their availability. If they're available, then they go to the end of the line and to be used for serving the passengers. So in our simulation, we can trace the state of charge of those eVTOL and make a decision on if they have to be charged at a certain vertiport, or they can continue on serving the next task. So in terms of the vertiport, we come up with different design. It could be very simple. It could be a little bit more complicated with terminal building, waiting area, etc., etc. So we used Tampa Bay area as our case study, and the vertiport locations came from our previous study. So our previous study is try to find the best locations of the vertiports and to serve as much demand as they could by competing with the ground transportation. So here's another, I'll go through this quickly. This just talking about how to assign the passengers to the available eVTOL. So I want to share with you this video. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, cool. Okay. So there's no audio, but it's give you ideas about the logics I just mentioned. And then later we'll show the simulation. So you can see in the simulation, we also did some airspace analysis, try to avoid the busy airspace used by the commercial flights. And then we generate this dashboard to trace the performance of the passenger statistics, the eVTOL, and the vertiports. So the red areas are the airspace we try to avoid because used by landing and takeoff of the commercial flights to the TPA and St. Petersburg Airport. And this we can zoom in, look at how the passengers going through these vertiports. And these are the system-wide statistics. So as I mentioned, we can simulate any of the settings. We use the vertiport sighting from our previous study, but if any of the stakeholders are interested in testing different network, we can do that. And it could be used not only just Tampa Bay, it could be used anywhere, Miami, Orlando or California, or even like Dubai or anything. And then from there, we actually can identify the bottleneck in the network and to see if they lack of the eVTOL to transport passengers, or if they do not have like a takeoff and the landing pads, or the eVTOLs cannot be charged enough at certain vertiports. So here just to show some results from the simulation. And as I mentioned, this can be used for the capacity design, could be used for the fleet planning, used by operational strategy development, etc. So it's a very powerful tool. And also I want to mention some ongoing effort is because the early case of the AM probably is like a station-based sharing services, which means the users were coming from their region and take different modes, ground modes, go to the vertiport and then take the eVTOL to the destination side vertiport and use other modes to get to the final destination. So what we have done is to simulate this phase of this whole process. And we also have, the agent-based model available to simulate the ground transportation. So the ongoing effort from USF is we try to integrate or combine the different agent-based model and then come up what we call total mobility simulation. And that could even be more powerful because it could be used to look at the multimodal transportation system. So due to the limited time, I'm going to stop here, but I will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Jesus?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question about the travel flows that you had when you had the map of the whole Tampa Bay region and the little lines moving all throughout. Where is that like a demand estimation? Are you taking that from like cell phone data?
No, we didn't take from the cell phone data. I know lots of the like Ferrovio and Skyports, they collect the cell phone data. They purchase cell phone data, I would say. But what we used was the TBRPM. So in our region, actually, we do have activity-based demand modeling. So we actually used the OD matrix The demand modeling is activity based, so it's individual disaggregate data. So we used our previous study actually simulated 24 hours of the activity-based model, and then we get very detailed disaggregate level data, like for each of the travelers in our region, where they start their trip, where they go, how long they're going to be there, what mode they use, what is the travel time, etc. So we use that information as an input as the total demand. We didn't consider the induced demand, which is additional demand encouraged by the adding of the new mode. So we just look at that demand, and then we see how this multimodal AM actually would compete with the ground transportation. So we do have the mode choice model there, and then look into the shifted demand from the ground to the air. So as I said, the setting of the simulation actually came from another study that we done with the support of FDOT District 7 office.
Okay, so you had a mode choice component in there. Is that
We
based
had a
on?
mode choice component from the previous study, but in the simulation, we just know, okay, for this vertiport, daily, there are so many passengers, and then we use a Poisson process to simulate the showing of the passengers at the origin side vertiport.
Right, like how many would choose eVTOL versus another mode?
Yeah, another study actually do have that. In the slide, actually, I had some. I know we do not have enough time, but this is how we integrate the AM into our travel demand modeling. So we add something into. Previously, our state level, we use the 4-step modeling. So we add those into the 4-step modeling. We transfer the utility functions, and then we come up with this iterative algorithm to obtain the new equilibrium. The new equilibrium means that how the demand distribution would look like when we have one more new mode added into the system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now, Harmony will speak about a public participation plan for 2025.
Good afternoon. My name is Harmony McGee. I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for the Hillsborough TPO. And today I'll be presenting the Public Participation Plan update for 2025. So just a little background about what the Public Participation Plan is. It is our set of guidelines and procedures for how we conduct public engagement. And it is also a commitment, a formal commitment that the TPO makes and that we must hold ourselves accountable to. It is updated every 2 to 3 years and it was last updated in 2022. So as you all might remember, we brought you the Measures of Effectiveness report in March. That document coincides with the Public Participation Plan. And in the Measures of Effectiveness report, we made some recommendations. Those recommendations have been applied to this public participation plan, and we'll go over those in the slides. So about the PPP changes, the ones that we'll be covering in this presentation are standardizing public notice times, printed media, the TPO priority list public meeting, addressing the recommendations from the MOE reports and the public participation box. So firstly, for standardizing public notice times, we have determined for the LRTP adoption, LRTP amendments, the TIP adoption, as well as the TPO priority list. We're setting a minimum of at least 10 days prior to the board meeting that will release a public notice to notify the public. Previously, the dates weren't all consistent with 10 days. We decided to change this to make it easier for staff on the back end, especially when coordinating with newspapers, because newspapers have various deadlines, it makes it easier for staff to navigate reaching those deadlines and also helps it make it easier for staff to remember. And we also know that it will help with consistency with the public. The public will have a standard for when they can expect to hear about public hearings and meetings. For printed media, we are proposing that we remove the requirement to place ads in the newspaper from the PPP, and we would like to replace this with a more cost-effective printed method. During the Transportation Improvement Program's public engagement, we did a study where we used unique QR codes to test the amount of engagement we were actually getting on the newspaper ads. And we found that they weren't very cost effective and we weren't getting a lot of engagement according to the QRs. So we would like to consider a different alternatives, such as maybe posting printed flyers in community centers so that it's more cost efficient. For the TPO priority list, the TPO has now implemented the practice of presenting the TIP and the TPO priority list as separate items. Because of this, we would like to no longer require that the TPO priority list be approved at a public hearing, but that it could be approved at a public meeting. And we'll also set a standard of 15-day review period for the TPO priority list. Now to addressing the MOE recommendations, just as a refresher on what the recommendations from the MOE were, they were to make our surveys ADA compliant, remove the requirement for sign postings for the Transportation Improvement Program, to standardize meeting postponements, define strategies for combating survey fatigue, expanding our presence on YouTube, and also evaluating the community process. So for our first MOE recommendation for ADA compliance surveys in the PPP, we have identified SurveyMonkey and Survey 123 as the platforms that will be moving forward with. Previously, we were using a different platform that caused us some issues. Why we have such a strong emphasis on this, one quick testimony is our recent involvement with Bush Boulevard. On the pedestrian infrastructure there, we did some outreach with the visually impaired. And without that outreach, the infrastructure there wouldn't have had vocalization features. And so that's why we have such a strong emphasis on making sure that our surveys are ADA compliant so that we can ensure feedback that like that keeps getting implemented. Our next MOE recommendation is for the road signs. We are proposing to remove road signs as a PPP requirement. They will be outlined in the public participation toolbox to allow staff to use them at their discretion, but not a requirement. And this is similar to the printed media that I mentioned earlier. We conducted a similar study during the TIP public engagement, in which we also found that these signs weren't cost effective. They also require a lot of staff time and labor to place them out and pose a risk to staff safety, placing them out, and also to the community member safety when they're driving. It's kind of hard to engage with the QR code on a sign while you're driving. Pedestrians may have the opportunity to engage with them, but for those that are driving, it could pose a risk while they're trying to get the information that they need. The MOE recommendation for postponing meetings, we have set a 4 calendar day window, which would be at the discretion of the TPO director in consultation with the committee liaison to make a decision to either cancel or postpone a meeting. And this comes as something important, especially with hurricane season coming up, just to give committee members more ample time to prepare. And then as far as the other MOE recommendations, they are addressed by the public engagement toolbox, which can be found in Appendix C of the PPP. It is simply outlines different strategies or tools that TPO staff can use to conduct public engagement. An example of that would be focus groups. So rather than conducting a survey, TPO staff might choose to use a focus group to address survey fatigue as one of their strategies. And also for expanding our online presence, specifically on YouTube, we might choose to use YouTube Shorts rather than a typical YouTube video. YouTube Shorts are, as in the verbiage, it's a short form video that could be educational or informative, and we find that those videos tend to captivate our audience more just because people want information quick and accessible. So we are trying to expand into that tool on YouTube. We believe that this will also, the public engagement toolbox will give staff the flexibility to cater our public engagement methods to the unique needs and concerns of each study, rather than being tied into one specific methodology. So as you've heard, the public participation plan has a lot of changes that are designed to create a more accessible, consistent, and efficient public engagement strategy. And this is a status report, so we would like to hear some feedback from you all, specifically regarding the public notices, and how you all feel would be the best strategy on how we navigate that. So that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Harmony, for the presentation. I was wondering if there are any Title VI concerns with the removal of the road signs and the newsletter ads or newspaper. And I'm asking because we do newspaper ads as well for certain type of notices. And I don't know the letter of the law. I think we just do it because we've been doing it since the beginning of time. So I was wondering, like, I'm seeing your bold move of eliminating newspaper ads and I'm inspired, you know? So I was wondering if you had looked at, if there are any concerns regarding Title VI.
I'm actually not entirely sure if there are. I do know that that's why we want to find something to replace it, not just completely, and it's not a total elimination of it because it will be in the public participation toolbox. So if we find that it is a conflict with Title VI, TBO staff will still be empowered to use it, just maybe not as a requirement.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that is something that we can look into to make sure it doesn't conflict with Title VI.
Yeah, because I feel like the concern that comes around that type of thing is that you're still, like those who do use newspaper ads, even though they're a minority, they're probably a group that doesn't use other things like social media, so you're still like cutting them off in a way. But then it comes down to the question, is it 2 people or 200 people, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Jay?
I was just gonna say, part of it, Harmony knows this, it's nuanced because there's legal ads and then there's public notice that you can give. Those are two different things in print media. So we can provide public notice to a meeting and it may not be an actual requirement, and we just are doing a public notice, it's a PSA. If there's a legal requirement for the notice, it goes in the legal ads and it's a separate process, right? So when we are doing plan amendments and everything, it's a legal ad that we're doing. We have to go through the actual, 2x6 block and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to when we're just saying, oh, hey, we're trying to talk to the Osprey Observer because we've got meetings happening in Valrico or Riverview, and we want to have an ad in there. So two different deals. Also, I am interested though about getting rid of signs. I think that's interesting because we have a closet full of them, right? So that's always interesting. And also for us, for the community planning that we do, at least for unincorporated Hillsborough County, we go through the county's blanket for signs, and we have those very large signs that you'll see around the county when a county commissioner is doing a town hall event, or Public Works is talking about, they're going to have a meeting for a road that they're working on or something like that. So for our community planning, we don't use those signs because we have also found that those signs are too small to get people's attention to actually be able to say, oh, hey, we have a meeting in Riverview. Come learn about planning for your community. So again, it may be that the tool's not bad. It's just the way we're deploying the tool at times.
When you say, Jay, sorry, if I may, crosstalk.
Okay.
When you say legal ads, legal according to who? Is that like a planning commission policy or is that?
So in our procedures manual, we do have for some legal requirement that we have to actually place ads, but also for if it's something that's under Florida statutes to actually allow that you have to have an ad for.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one question sort of related to this same topic. Are you guys planning to track sort of your input or attendance or how much community input you're receiving? Now, if you're going to eliminate these and maybe do something else, so we can come up with something else. I'd be curious to see, if the feedback you're getting is the same. Is it more? Is it less? Is it, because that's what it's all about, right? It's getting broad community input.
Yes, we do plan to track, or well, we currently already do kind of track our public input. You see it in the TPO board meetings. I do a committee report that has all of the feedback that we get from community members, and so we track trends that way. And so based upon those, we haven't seen really a plateau, more like a plateau. We haven't seen any like spikes or decreases based upon these particular public engagement methods, which is also the reasoning behind wanting to, well, not eliminate them, but more so use them as discretionary rather than having them as a requirement.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, Harmony. Appreciate you coming in today. Okay. Last regular item. One other thing is old or new business. Is there any old or new business? Nothing today. I'd say none. I'd say we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff just on vacation? Okay.